Blind taste tests prove it. Tabasco Salsa Picante wins. The superior Mexican-style hot sauce.
I think when you're a brand like ours that is growing, wants to be bigger, wants to have even a more penetration, more of a broad footprint, we're just not everywhere consumers want to be. And when we ask consumers why you don't come to El Pollo Loco more, usually the number one reason is convenience. And convenience to me is a proxy for there's not an EPL on the corner when I drive home at night. That's convenience. And so what's the next best way to get convenience? It's through third-party delivery. It's getting it delivered to you. And so I look at that as a huge opportunity. As I came in, we benchmarked our share through third party versus what competitors are doing. And there's a pretty good gap. It's closing, but I immediately, together with the team, we said, this is an opportunity. And so to really pop up for consumers, one of the things you've got to do with the third party aggregators is figure out what your value equation is. And sometimes that means doing some deals. That's what we've done.
How is El Pollo Loco giving customers value without giving up profits? Hello, I'm Jonathan Mays, Editor-in-Chief of Restaurant Business. And in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I speak with Liz Williams, the CEO of the 500-unit chicken chain El Pollo Loco. El Pollo Loco just reported a decline in same-store sales with an increase in traffic and an increase in restaurant-level profits. Generally speaking, when customers pay less per order, it's hard to generate profit growth. Liz explains how the company did this. We also talk about other things, including the company's development strategy. It just opened its 500th restaurant and the difficulty of operating in California, especially these days. We also talk about the chain's plan for beverages and why that is a huge opportunity both for El Pollo Loco and for a lot of other companies. And El Pollo Loco is testing a couple of intriguing chicken products. This is a great conversation with Liz Williams, so please check it out. All right, I'm here with Liz Williams. Liz, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
All right. So let me get this straight. So last quarter, you generated same-store sales growth. Same-store sales declined. There was a same-store sales decline, 0.8%. Traffic grew, and yet you improved restaurant-level profitability. What kind of wizardry is this?
Yes. Well, lots of good things going on at El Pollo Loco. And you summarized it correctly. What I'm most proud about is getting that traffic growth going again. One of the best indicators of health in this business is getting foot traffic going in the right direction. I'm proud that we were able to do that. So we've been hard at work, back to your profit and margin question. We've been hard at work on all parts of the business, at the middle of the P&L being one of those. And so everything from making sure our labor productivity is as good as it can be, our cost of goods, our supply chain. We have a fabulous leader who's really dug in on our supply chain and gotten some nice upsides. A lot of things helping us to expand the profitability, even as, we were just shy of sales growth. So even despite that, that wizardry and magic happened.
Right. But then your sales have turned positive so far in the current quarter.
Yes.
And I will note that, I think Ira mentioned on the call that it cited easier comparisons, I guess. They're not that much easier. It's only 0.6%. So oddly enough, is not as, and I, for one, appreciate brutal honesty on these calls. And a lot of times I think too many executives just get a little bit too flowery. But oddly enough, he might have been understating that a little bit. I mean, I think getting same-store sales growth in this particular environment is an accomplishment.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. We think so. I think we're all in the industry. We have a little bit of trepidation to get too excited. And maybe that's because of everything going on in the economy and just, where we've been over the last couple of months and quarters. But we are proud that in October, we are seeing sales growth. And Ira was right. It is, relatively speaking, slightly easier of a lap. The fact that traffic, like I said, in Q3 was positive, and then in October has continued to be positive. We are seeing the green shoots. And these green shoots, I do think, are, showing that growth. El Pollo Loco is back in a world of growth again. And, that's really being driven by innovation. It's being driven by value. It took us a while, but I think we've gotten that formula headed in the right direction.
One of the interesting things that I really wanted to ask you about, you talked a little bit about, actually, you talked about a lot of bit about the sort of the state of the economy and the industry. And we've heard a lot about sort of a sudden weakness in September and in October. A number of different executives have mentioned this, but you seem to suggest that the weakness, at least in relative to your concept, had begun about a year ago. Could you talk a little bit about that?
That's right. So now keep in mind, we're predominantly today, as we said, our footprint is California, the majority California, although we are in 7 states and we're growing outside of California. So some of, what we're seeing isn't always representative of the entire United States, which some of our competitors are. But, the weakness that people are talking about, we did start to see some of that at the end of last year. And then certainly everything that's gone on in our economy, be it with tariffs, be it with ICE, be it with, everything going on now with the government shutdown, that's all been going on all year long. And so we did see some of that weakness. And what it forced us to do was to really sharpen ourselves as operators and say, how do we get our innovation going faster? How do we bring more value to consumers? And then in the restaurants, how do we up our game on operations to have a better experience? So I think we started doing that. I know we started doing that over a year ago, and it's paying dividends now.
Right. I mean, you mentioned also, there are, especially for you guys out in California, and there's a tremendous number of issues over just over that year that you've had to deal with. Actually, probably a year. If you go back even a year and a half, you got the $20 wage. You have, the issue with immigration, which I've heard over and over again, and we have plenty of data to prove it, that the immigration situation is creating some multiple headaches for restaurants, and in my opinion is probably going to continue for a while until it gets solved in some capacity. You have, just the general state of consumer confidence, it just really must be just dealing with all of those different challenges has to be really difficult, frankly.
It's what we do every day. I think it makes us stronger. And I say, as we go to develop across the country, if we can do everything or face everything you just rattled off and still show up with average unit volumes of 2.3 million, margins that are improving, even with $20 minimum wage, we've had really nice margin growth over the last year and a half. We're pushing towards 18% and showing we have a path beyond that. If we can do all of that in this environment, imagine what we can do as we move across the country into some states that are a little bit easier to operate in. Or imagine if, the economic times that we're facing right now subside and get a little easier. So I look at that as, I think in these times, you get to see the best operators really rise above. But yeah, no, I just think this is getting out of bed every day. What else are we going to see, right? And, the other one at the beginning of the year, we had the California fires, which, we're part of that community. And, although we didn't have any restaurants in those spaces, that's our community.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. I just kind of skipped over. That was a significant situation in California.
Yeah. A lot of lives affected.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So, I think I'm proud of our team, and I'm proud of, it just shows this brand has a lot of gas in the tank.
Mm-hmm. Now, you just opened your 500th restaurant. It was in Colorado Springs, and now 501st in El Paso, Texas.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that seems to me, two things. Number one is that those 2 restaurants seem to be doing well so far early on, and that's also kind of indicative of where you're headed is opening more restaurants outside of California. You talk about that.
Exactly. Those restaurants it's been so fun to see the lines out the door of these restaurants and the volumes. In Colorado Springs, they had to get extra deliveries of chicken into those restaurants because the demand was so great in those first couple of weeks of opening. So just the exact reception that we wanted, we were thrilled to see. And you're right. Most of our growth as we go forward is going to be outside of California. Half of our restaurants that will open this year outside of California. The other exciting part is being able to go after some of the second generation restaurants. So, It's sad to see some closures in our industry, but someone's misfortune is turning into our fortune as we're able to remodel a restaurant. You can do that for a lower cost. So our build cost today is between 1.9, 2 million, a little over 2 million in some areas. But when we remodel a restaurant, a second generation, we can do that for 1 million to 1.2, 1.3. And you can just imagine the returns are so much better. So that's really underpinning our growth as well. And the restaurants are really well received by consumers.
So is that a deliberate strategy to target second generation sites?
It's becoming one in terms of just the unit economics. I mean, you're just so much faster in achieving your goals on the unit economics. The paybacks come down. So our franchise partners and us alike are taking advantage of that in many instances.
Mm-hmm. All right. So some interesting things coming up in test. I want to ask you about that.
Yes.
Let me ask you first about, I mean, I would make a comment about chicken and beverages, but you always do chicken. Everybody wants to do chicken and beverages. I was talking to, oddly enough, this is completely not even relevant to what I'm saying, but I was talking to Patrick Doyle this
Sure.
week. And he was talking about how, well, we're focusing on burgers because that's what we do. I mean, we have chicken products. We're just focusing on burgers. And I've just found it so refreshing for a burger chain not to be focused on chicken right now. And not everybody needs to do chicken. It's okay to not focus on chicken.
Yes, but let's pause for a minute. We have Pollo in our name.
Yeah, you have chicken. You're a chicken concept. You are chicken. No question.
So excited that it makes sense for us to focus on chicken.
Yeah, well, you're not focusing on burgers, are you?
No, we are not focusing on burgers.
Great, thank you. But you are focusing. Let's talk about chicken here in a second. You got a couple of chicken products you were talking about. But I want to ask you about the beverages. I've contended, and we're seeing some evidence of this. I think that restaurant chains upping their beverage game has some real potential. It's simply because I have 2 Gen Z kids, and
me too.
I don't understand
a lot of money on these beverages.
Nonsense that they drink, but they drink all sorts of weird stuff. They don't drink the same old stuff that we used to as kids. And I just feel like that's always been just a sleepy area that restaurants haven't really focused on much. It has a lot of potential for add-on sales. Can you talk a little bit about what your strategy is?
Yeah, so much potential. You know what kills me is I love to get out in our restaurants. I enjoy even taking a shift or two and working in the restaurants. And when you see a customer go through our drive-through and order our delicious food, and then they go next door and they drive through, insert, beverage concepts and get the drink there, you're just like, that's an opportunity, right? Not to mention even down with our Gen Z, our Gen Z kids. We have in our restaurants, horchata. No one does a horchata better than El Pollo Loco. What about a horchata coffee, a chata coffee? It is delicious, cold over ice with cold foam to plus it up. There's so many things we can do with coffee, churro coffee that fit and are true to who we are in terms of El Pollo Loco. So we're not going to go, try and be a coffee concept. That is not who we are. What I want to do is bring coffee in where it's relevant in terms of desserts and kind of that extra plus up. And then the same thing is true, with our beverages when it comes to the CSDs. So, we've been a Coke partner for years. And over the last couple of years, our incidence in terms of beverages has just, been going the wrong way. And you saw it in our earnings announcement. Check is a big opportunity. And it kills me when someone doesn't add on a drink and instead they go home to have a drink. And so we've got to bring some new news to those beverages as well. So, we're looking at how do we take our aquas frescas and mix in the cold foam with aquas frescas as an example. There's a lot we can do. And you know what? No one can do it at the price points that we can. Very few can. So I think that's interesting too. A little bit cheaper than what others are seeing out there.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like, it's a thing. Like I just, I don't know, you go to a gas station I'm supposed to say convenience store because we have a convenience store publication.
Yes.
And yes, I get in trouble if I say gas station, by the way, just for the record. And I know you go into a convenience store or a pharmacy, whatever, that has a beverage that is a beverage cooler, and you take a look at the room that they devote to like energy drinks or flavored waters or whatever,
Right.
cold coffee.
It's huge.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it is massive. And like that's a big business. And obviously beverages are a big reason why people go to, certainly a big reason why I go to a convenience store. And the selection is just much, much broader. And yet it's only been until very recently that we've seen restaurant chains kind of realize, hey, wait a minute, this is an opportunity. And I really think that consumers just today want something more. They are willing to spend if they get incentivized. And beverages are an opportunity. It's not like it can necessarily become Starbucks overnight, but at the same time, it's these are occasions, and this is something that the consumer wants.
It's an opportunity. And, they're there with us. Like the one also I see is oftentimes we'll get the customer that only has a very limited amount of time for lunch. So maybe they're, working, construction or, doing something and they've got a short amount of time. They want to come in and they want to get their lunch and their drink and get it all at once. We should be able to do that. So I'm excited. There's a lot to come there.
Right. Yeah. But that said, I will not be a customer. I am too old for pink unicorn rainbow horchata
I don't
coffee
know.
or whatever.
Once you try our chata, I'm not even really a coffee drinker, full disclosure. I'm more the carbonated soda drinker, but I love our horchata coffee. It's delicious.
Yeah.
So
Well, I do
I think
like
we
horchata.
could convert you.
Yeah, I do like horchata, and I do like
Yeah.
coffee, for the record. But
Yeah.
listeners have probably heard my coffee rants on occasion, but
Yeah. Okay. So
only
we'll
drip,
give you
only
some.
old guy drip coffee for me. So
Yeah, none of that. None
no,
of that.
but yeah, but I'm not, not really the target market, so I don't matter. I mean, maybe in some cases,
You
but
matter
now
to us.
you're doing some. Now you are doing testing also a couple of different chicken products.
Yes. Let's talk chicken.
Pollo products, I guess.
Yeah, so we are transforming El Pollo Loco. So our origins of El Pollo Loco are family chicken on the bone, which we love. It's not going away. We are known for that. However, the modern consumer wants to eat chicken in a burrito, on a salad, in a quesadilla. And so that's the part of our menu which we're continuing to grow. The salads, we have one of the highest attach or mixes of salads of anyone in the QSR industry. And, as fast casual, prices have gotten out of line. People are trading into our salads because the chicken on our salads is amazing and our salads are fresh, leafy green. So we're really focused on how do we innovate on all of these other products. So we are going to, in addition to our, burritos, we had quesadillas this summer. Right now we have these really just a big eat burrito bowl. And as we move into next year, we're going to also add to the menu chicken tenders. So we're getting into the game on fried chicken as well. So these are our Loco tenders. Our sauces are incredible. We have a pollo sauce that is amazing, a Baja Ranch, amazing. Yeah, so we're going to do it with our all white meat chicken, but the world is crazy for tenders. Ours are going to have a little bit of a kick. So they have kind of this spicy, a little sweet, but mostly spicy kick. So those are in test right now, and they'll hit the market probably Q2 timeframe.
It should have a kick, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. I think we need to be differentiated, and our brand is known for flavor, and so they have a nice kick there. And then sandwiches. So we have also just gotten into test what we're calling fire fried sandwich. So imagine a sandwich. This one is not fried, but it has a crispy breading, and we put it on our fire grill. So it's fire fried, wink, wink. But so it eats like a fried sandwich, but it's a grilled sandwich. It's delicious. It has our coleslaw. It has our Loco or our pollo sauce. It's amazing. So we're testing that right now. I'd love to see that hit the menu next year. We also have Mexican Caesar wrap that we're playing with. And then coming back to where we're known, back to the chicken on the bone, we are innovating there. We've got a barbecue chicken, which we think will be really good for the summertime. With the number one thing I get asked for when I go into restaurants, when people say, bring back it's black beans. So we're playing around with black beans to come back with barbecue chicken.
You got rid of black beans. Why'd you get rid of black beans?
It was way before my time. We have pinto beans are our core. There's a group of folks, I'd put myself in it. We all like black beans, so why
Yeah.
not? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very big bean fan, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm agnostic. I will take pinto or black beans. So,
Yeah,
but
they're
it's
both great. And beans are healthy. I mean, that's the other thing of this brand. This brand has great quality. We're known for quality. People's face light up when we say El Pollo Loco and they say, "Oh, I love eating it." And you know what? I feel good after I'm eating it. There, is the world is eating, in different ways. This is our opportunity to really shine, bringing different variety of beans, continuing with our grilled chicken, but also fried chicken, even though I know grilled is healthier than fried. Having choices for folks is what we're all about.
so how different of a product is the chicken tenders then for you guys if you're frying them like that?
We do fry, I kind of equate it to our tostada salad. So I say that one's healthy with a little bit of guilt because the shell is, a tostada that is fried. But then you have the, lettuce, tomato, beans, grilled chicken, pretty healthy, right? So maybe you don't order the sour cream, but we do fry in our restaurants, whether it's the tostadas, the chips, the churros. So, to do a tender is not
So
hard for us.
it's not hard for your team
No,
to
for our
execute.
operators, it's, it's
Uh-huh.
an extra step, but it's very doable.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about digital because you talked a lot about that particular topic. It seems like your loyalty program is doing really well. Talk about that.
It is. It's taken off this year. We made some enhancements in terms of usability that have helped a lot, but we also figured out the formula in terms of bringing more value. So we had a reflection earlier this year when we saw we needed to bring more value overall to the brand. And did we want to do that by screaming price points, on TV or, on our menu board? How did we want to do that? And we said, let's use our app to be the vehicle where we really hone into best deals are in the app. And we started these Loco Friday drops where consumers know on Fridays, some of the best deals come out. And to get those best deals, you got to go in the app. And we use, 360 marketing where we're marketing those in other ways to drive people into the app. And it's been great. We've seen not only the transactions go up in the app, but we've seen the consumers that are in the app are coming to us more frequently. So that's really nice to see as well. And then, you can get great customer feedback with that consumer as well. So it's just been a win all the way around. There's still things to do to improve it. We think customization, we can do more customization in there. So we're working on that. But yeah, no, it's headed in the right direction.
And you're also a big fan of third-party delivery to the point that you do a lot of offers on the apps. What's the benefit? Why do the offers?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when you're a brand like ours that is growing, wants to be bigger, wants to have even a more penetration, more of a broad footprint, we're just not everywhere consumers want to be. And when we ask consumers why you don't come to El Pollo Loco more, usually the number one reason is convenience. And convenience to me is a proxy for there's not an EPL on the corner when I drive home at night. That's convenience. And so what's the next best way to get convenience? It's through third-party delivery. It's getting it delivered to you. And so I look at that as a huge opportunity. As I came in, we benchmarked our share through third party versus what competitors are doing. And there's a pretty good gap. It's closing, but I immediately, together with the team, we said, this is an opportunity. And so to really pop up for consumers, one of the things you've got to do with the third party aggregators is figure out what your value equation is. And sometimes that means doing some deals. That's what we've done. And we're seeing nice things. The other thing too, our food travels better than most. Grilled chicken retains heat. We don't have French fries. We have chips. They stay a little bit better. It's also if El Pollo Loco, this is the first time you're having it and you're having it through a DoorDash or an Uber Eats, it's a good experience versus getting a soggy, fill in the blank
Yeah.
item. Yeah.
That's true. Chicken always does travel very well. But how do you balance though the offers? And by the way,
Yeah.
you're not even in like close to the only company that does it. Like like
Yeah, we're all there. Yeah.
half of orders have some sort of deal. It's actually surprised me. I'm not a delivery customer, so I don't really go on that very often until I saw, we've done a couple of studies on this and so how frequent the deals are is very, very common. And I know I understand why, but how do you balance, that, because you need to get their attention. But at the same time, I mean, profitability is important. You seem to have threaded that needle.
Yeah, I think it's all a balance, right? I think, like anything, if you go too heavy, then you just drive the wrong behaviors. So there are some things, where you can target it more for a new consumer. So with the aggregators, they can turn on a deal. Like some of the deals that are popping up in your phone are probably different than the deals that are popping up in my phone. And so I think using technology to target is really important. And we've got a great team that does that. And then just like you said, you have to balance it. So that's what we're doing. I also think franchise partners, they're entrepreneurs and they are always looking at their bottom line. And that's, one of the reasons I love how the franchising model works. So they also keep it in balance as well.
All right, cool. One last question, and it's a question I have to ask. A couple of months ago, you had a couple announcements, one involving my good friend, Sardar Biglari. Another one, another group of friends of mine, actually, Capital Spring. Two totally separate situations. Where are those situations at?
We don't comment on those. There's public filings that both of them have made. And, just like any investor, we work with both of them, just like anyone that is invested in El Pollo Loco, and meet with them accordingly. And I just remain focused on growing the brand and doing all the things that are part of the 3-year turnaround that I put forward and the our 5-pillar strategy. I'm, very happy with how we're going on that. I said from the beginning, we need to turn the brand around and we need to reimage the brand and we need to get our hospitality headed in the right direction and get growth going again. And we started the conversation with unit economics. And those are all the things that I focus on. And, I'm also really lucky. We have one of the best franchise systems in, I think, the industry. And just working together, we started the conversation, we're putting up positive transactions and we're getting back to sales growth. So I'm focused on all of that, and I think the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. Unit economics is key. Liz, really appreciate you joining me this week on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Great to see you.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons. You can find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. But by all means, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.
Blind taste tests prove it. Tabasco Salsa Picante wins. The superior Mexican-style hot sauce.